This week's Q&A podcast is going to be the topic of the value of loose rein riding versus contact riding. And it is really important, I feel, that a horse can do both. So as you can see, this horse is Izzy and Sniper posting on a loose rein. So the idea of loose rein is that a horse can stay relaxed and at a walk, trot, and lope, whether you do squares, rectangles, or circles, the horse can stay at the speed you say on a loose rein until you say otherwise. So without speeding up. So by having a horse on a tight rein all the time, it doesn't teach them to have speed control off of your body. And then here we're going to have contact riding. And contact riding has value too, because by being able to sit and put your leg on, but then add your hands and get a horse to shorten their stride, break in the poll, as he's doing here, makes for a horse that is light and responsive. It helps with collection. So when you want to shorten your stride or rate before a barrel, it helps with tighter turns that are collected but forward motion. So as you can see the difference in this horse, his headset naturally, when he was standing there at the end, you can see his headset naturally is his head comes out higher out of his shoulder, his head and neck. So his neck allows his head to be very high above his withers. Some horses travel with a head lower, like wither, but then some horses are built different, especially a lot of barrel horse bloodlines. They can be built that way. So it has a value, as you can see here when she is jogging, of teaching a horse to give to pressure. See how his head is now even with his withers? So when a horse's head is high, sometimes that will hollow the back and get their butt out and not underneath them. So once a horse understands to break in the pole and get their head more even with their withers, not behind it, but that allows them to now round their top line and get their hindquarters up underneath them. And that gives a nice collected feel. And that's something you want to feel when you're in a smaller circle or going around a barrel. And it's just an important place. So you got to be careful with a horse that's high headed. If you just take a hold of them and they don't have lateral or vertical broke in the face, then what happens is the head will just go up and they'll just stiffen on you worse. So it is important to be able, at this point, you can see she is on a loose rein. On a loose rein, you can see at least an inch, maybe two, of as loose a rein as possible while she's posting and one-handed, and this horse stays in a nice little trot without breaking into a canter, without her having to pick up her hand and say whoa. He's just really respectful to this post trot on the loose rein. And that is also a value because we don't want to always be micromanaging our horses. So like I said, there is a value to both loose rein riding and to get a horse to really relax. Sometimes when you put them in the bridle, they can be a little bit more like you'll see the tail swish, or maybe they'll chew the bit a little until they truly learn to settle down and be okay with it. And his point, he's not swishing out of aggravation, maybe just swishing at the weather, the flies, who knows. But and then here on a nice loose rein again, stays in a really pretty post trot. And whether she did this in a circle and I have her doing one-handed spirals as well. So if you're, this month's challenge for the group is to do the one-handed, well actually it's spirals. If you're on a young horse, you'll do it two-handed, and I'm going to do a video critique of that versus an open horse that you might be able to do it one-handed. So that has value as well. Two-hand versus one-hand, beginner versus advanced. So again, if your horse cannot be on a loose rein, that's something you would want to work on. And if they do take off with you, a one rein stop is the best thing you can do, or just picking your hands up and bringing them back towards the saddle horn as you sit deep. Ask them a couple times, say easy, easy, or whoa, or here. And then if that doesn't work, then you can always slide your hand down one rein and do a one rein stop to teach them, because you really can't control a horse or get a horse to slow or stop with two hands. You can, however, though, if you have a horse that's giving you blisters in an O-ring, The only way they're going to rate or slow down in an O-ring is by doing one rein stops. If you are in a lifter bit or a shanked bit, that will offer you more leverage, and you may only need to use your pinky to get that horse to rate or soften. So I would love to see you be able to do it in a snaffle or a side pull, but if you have to go to a little more bridle for some horses and be pinky light versus getting blisters in a snaffle or a side pull, that's not a bad thing. And again, the lighter the bit, the more you need to depend on one rein stops to get control. And like I said, this horse, I asked her to back him a couple steps after. Um, and he did really well, though. So I loved that she was able to do both. She could ride with contact and get him to break in the pull and shorten his stride, round up his top line. And then she could go to 2 inches of loose rein on a post trot, and he didn't speed up or take off into a lope. And that was just a really well done job. So, and it's something that we practice every day when we warm up or every ride. So I like riders to do rail work where they do extended, collected, also some face flex lateral, nose in, nose out, and then vertical, lateral, nose in, nose out, and then vertical, and doing it both directions at a walk and a trot. And then of course we do a drill afterwards. And this particular day we did spirals, and but you could do anything: single barrel, big and small circles, the D pattern, figure eights. Anything would be great for a drill as well before you go to the barrel or pole pattern. Or you can just do a mix of each one day a week. And that would be 3 different things, 3 different days. So always go back to basics during the week, and definitely remember there is a value to loose rein riding and contact riding to have an all around relaxed partner and teammate. You want a horse that doesn't mind giving to your pressure like this horse is doing, but you also want a horse that can be on a loose rein and still work pretty too. So great job, Izzy.